What if I told you that the economy could be booming while people are suffering, cities are destroyed, and millions are dead? Sounds insane, right? But that's exactly what GDP tells us. Yep, GDP can skyrocket during wars. But wait, does that mean war is good for the economy? Let's talk about why GDP is a scam and why wartime exposes its biggest flaws. What is GDP and why do we use it? Governments, economists, and news outlets use it as the gold standard for measuring economic success. It's made up of four key parts. C. Consumption. How much people spend on goods and services. I. Investment. How much businesses invest in equipment, factories, and infrastructure. G. Government spending. Money spent by the government on everything from highways to military weapons. X minus M. Net exports. The difference between what a country sells to other nations and what it buys. But GDP doesn't care about who benefits, what is being produced, or why money is being spent. It just cares that spending is happening. And here's the kicker. War makes government spending explode, which sends GDP skyrocketing. But does that really mean life is improving? Why destruction is not growth. This is called the broken window fallacy. The idea is, if something gets destroyed, people have to pay to fix it, which creates jobs and boosts the economy. But here's the problem. The baker had money. Now he's forced to spend it on something he already had. A window. That money could have gone to hiring a new employee, expanding his shop, or buying better equipment. Instead of creating new wealth, we're just replacing what was lost. And that's exactly what happens during war. But what if a country isn't directly affected by war? What if it just sells weapons, like the US did in World War II? Wars lead to massive government spending on weapons, tanks, and rebuilding destroyed cities. This sends GDP through the roof. During World War II, the United States saw an unprecedented economic boom. Unemployment plummeted as millions were drafted, and those remaining took jobs in the war industries. Factories ran 24/7, churning out tanks, airplanes, and ammunition. But here's the catch. This was not sustainable prosperity. The government controlled much of the economy through the War Production Board, prioritizing weapons over consumer goods. Rationing became a way of life. Gasoline, sugar, meat, and rubber were in short supply. Even with rising GDP, most Americans saw a decline in their standard of living. The private sector did not invest in long-term productivity. Factories were making bombs, not cars or appliances. Government debt exploded, rising from 45% to over 120% of GDP by 1945. And let's not forget, GDP is not the only way to measure an economy. Simon Kuznets, the economist who helped develop GDP, warned against using it as a measure of well-being. In a 1934 report to Congress, he explicitly stated, "The welfare of a nation can scarcely be inferred from a measure of national income." Kuznets believed that GDP should exclude military spending because it did not contribute to actual prosperity. He also emphasized that GDP ignores income inequality and environmental destruction. Yet, policymakers ignored his warnings because GDP was a convenient tool for justifying high government spending, especially during wartime. If GDP is flawed, how do we truly measure if an economy is doing well, especially during war times or economic crises? GDP might be rising, but are people actually making more money? Looking at median income growth, adjusted for inflation, shows if workers are better off. If wages aren't keeping up with rising prices, the economy isn't really growing for most people. Low unemployment sounds good, but what kinds of jobs are people getting? During wartime, unemployment often drops because of military drafts or war-related production jobs. But if these jobs vanish after the war, that's not real economic progress. An economy grows when businesses invest in better technology, education, and infrastructure, not just when governments spend money on weapons. If factories are only making tanks, they're not making new technology that improves civilian life. GDP says nothing about how wealth is distributed. If all the economic gains go to a few corporations while most people struggle, the country isn't truly thriving. Better measures include wealth inequality, indices like the Gini coefficient, and social well-being indicators. If people feel secure, they spend money on homes, education, and long-term investments. If businesses are optimistic, they invest in new products, not just government contracts. A healthy economy is one where both consumers and companies feel confident about the future. War spending often focuses on destruction and rebuilding, but real progress comes from investing in roads, energy, healthcare, and technology. Countries that focus on these areas, not just war, see lasting prosperity. So, next time you hear about GDP growing, ask, are people actually better off? Is the economy stronger for the long run? Or is it just another illusion created by government spending? Like and subscribe for more videos like this.